And so when I got here, there's a whole bunch of, ATF cars out front, and they're packing. I show up, I have my kid in my hand, and I literally made a comment to my kid saying, I'm about to get arrested. Hopefully you can see my Canon. What made the ATF think that I was selling guns to the cartel? By the way, that is called weapon trafficking, and that is 25 years in federal prison. So we're not joking around with this, right? They had great reason to believe that I was doing that. But before I can get started and talk about that, if you're an 18 to 25-year-old looking for a summer job, come work for me. I own a marketing company where we teach you guys leadership, communication, and confidence. If you guys are looking on building those 3 skills, there's a link in the description below. I've always bought guns. I've been buying guns since I was 18 years old. Last year though, I started spending lots of money. In fact, it was $120,000 within 6 months. 70,000 of it was cash. That was very abnormal, especially for me. It was very out of character. A lot of the times that you go buy a firearm, you actually get flagged. You can get flagged for a number of reasons. Flags don't really mean much though. It's an automated system. They're going to flag you. If you have so many flags, they're going to look into it, okay? And in my case, I had 33 flags in a very short amount of time. So they looked into it. They start looking into things because I had so many red flags, and they see that my previous tax returns have not been yet filed. They see that I started 3 new companies and they just happen to be making loads of money on their first year. 3, I'm driving a brand new 2022 truck. How did I pay for that? I'm in a nice area, we're in a nice home here. They said my mom's a retired teacher. She shouldn't have money, and yet she's got money. They see my dad was retired border patrol. They even asked me about not paying my taxes, which I was late on, unfortunately. They had a lot of information that normally the ATF doesn't just have. They spent months looking into this stuff. Secondly, one of my local gun shops was already under investigation with the ATF. It was all over the news here. I happened to have spent $40,000 of that 70 in cash at that specific gun shop. And when they were going through stuff, they were flipping, how do you know this guy? How do you know this guy? How do you know this guy? It was wild. And a lot of these guys, I had no idea who they were. They just happened to be at the gun store on the same day that I was paying cash for some of these big ticket items. They were paying cash for those very similar big ticket items. And those guns just happened to end up in Mexico in the hands of the cartel. And so they assumed, okay, well, if these 3 guys did it all in the same day with cash and I was the 4th guy, okay, so they got a lot of information from that store while they were doing their investigation, because a lot of the guns that were being sold from that specific local firearm store ended up in Mexico somehow. Now, it wasn't their fault. They were doing the background checks. They were selling guns to US citizens. However, those US citizens were then selling those guns to the cartel. And you might ask, why? Well, fun fact, the cartel pays about $50,000 for that Barrett right up there. You can buy it here in the US if you can find them for $12,000 or $13,000 and get $50,000 from it. Now, I know you guys make a lot of jokes about the ATF being the ones that sell to the cartel. Don't ask me. I'm not the one doing it.
Our own agents were flooding Mexico with thousands of guns.
However, if they are, it makes sense why they want to come and put a stop to me doing it, because I'm taking away from their business. You know what I mean? They want to be the only ones doing it. They were here before I got home, okay? And so when I got here, there's a whole bunch of, ATF cars out front, and they're packing. I show up, I have my kid in my hand, and I literally made a comment to my kid saying, I'm about to get arrested. These guys just don't do a house call to say hi, you know what I mean? And so they actually instructed me to put my kid inside. And then they had me walk outside. And I said, well, at least they have the respect to arrest me in my driveway so my kid couldn't see it. I was like, these guys are pretty chill. They immediately started asking questions, and I didn't have anything to hide. Because I knew that I hadn't done anything wrong, or at least I didn't think I did anything wrong, I was totally fine answering their questions. Now, once I realized what they were actually kind of here for, and I realized if they could just see all of my guns, this would all go away. Yeah, of course they came into my home. At one point, I was threatened that if I didn't comply, or if I wanted to get a lawyer, they'd be back with a search warrant, because that would actually look like I was trying to hide something. They weren't looking here looking for specific, parts or, pistol braces or rare breed triggers or, binary triggers. They weren't looking for that crap. In fact, I have a lot of that stuff. They didn't even care. They literally said, yep, this is totally good right now. No problem. Okay. And at one point, the guy said, when these things become banned, bury them in your backyard. That's literally what he told me. Like, they were fine. And no, I'm not a Fed. Okay. I'm not here to support the ATF. I don't believe what they're doing is right by any means. If I don't comply with them, they come in here the next day. They do seize everything. They shoot my dog. And it's going to take me months, if not years, to get my guns back. Even though I am a law-abiding citizen and nothing was done wrong, they do have that power to come in here. I shouldn't say they have the power. They don't have that power. They misuse the power or the ability to come in here and seize everything. Okay? But in this case, it wasn't like they thought I was doing stuff illegal with my guns. For example, with this new baby scar, if I were to put a certain stock on this thing or a vertical grip, that would be a felony. They didn't think I was doing things like that. They weren't going to seize stuff. I wasn't buying guns, illegally. They just thought I was selling them illegally. And so when they come into the home and they see all the guns, in fact, there was a lot more here than they even thought I had, because I was buying them not just through the gun stores, but through back pages, Arms List, online, friends, and whatever. And they see all the guns here, they were completely shocked, because it meant that they had zero proof at this point, just theory, that I was selling guns to the cartel. Okay? Now, it wasn't just the cartel. Obviously, that was what they can get a search warrant for a lot easier when they say they have substantial proof to the cartel. Now that's a domestic terrorist. That's a huge threat. Of course they're going to get a signature from a judge for that, especially a liberal judge who's not pro Second Amendment. That's a very easy thing to get a signature for. But they also thought that I was maybe selling guns illegally, that I was buying them and then immediately flipping them. So two whoopsies there. One, when you go to buy a gun, the very first question it asks you, aside from your name and your social and all that good stuff, is, are you the intended buyer or user of this firearm? And you have to mark yes. If you mark no, it's automatically flagged. You don't get to buy that weapon. And so in their case, they thought with all this cash that just came out of the woodworks, they thought he must be buying and then selling, buying and selling, and buying and selling. And I wasn't. I was buying and holding and buying and holding. A lot of you guys in the comment section are saying that I should never let the feds or let the ATF into my home. Yeah, when they're at your front door and they're packing, you don't have time to think sometimes what I should or shouldn't be doing. You don't have time to even think about getting your lawyer. In fact, I didn't even have that thought cross my head until about an hour into talking to these people. That's how long I was sitting there talking with them, going over all these things. Now, in my case, I knew two things. One, I had done nothing illegal, nothing wrong. I had nothing to hide. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Two, if they were to seize my guns, it's not going to be because that I had them. Once I figured out why they were there on my front porch, was to make sure I had my guns, they aren't going to seize them. That doesn't make any sense. They were there to make sure that I wasn't selling them illegally or selling them to the cartel. I do want to spend a second and just, I guess, go over some misconceptions that you guys have with the ATF. And no, I'm not a Fed. Whoever that comment is, Blake, if you could put that comment up right now, no, I am not a Fed. Some misconceptions that you guys have with ATF is whether they have a warrant or not. They do not just trash your home. They don't always shoot your dog. In fact, I had a 95-pound German Shepherd here. My dog was fine, okay? They're not always coming to look for trouble. If you give them trouble when you're a smart aleck to them and you're not being compliant, yeah, they're going to shoot your dog, okay? When I was being very welcoming, I was giving them the answers that they were looking for. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I had all my guns here. They didn't care. They were coming here to look for these guns. If I had these guns in my possession, there is no questions asked. Now, if they came here and there were no guns, yeah, I'm going to jail. Well, for one reason or another, I'm going to jail for that. They wanted to check out some of these guns that I have. I have some awesome collector pieces that you guys don't see here. I have an entire safe full of pistols, just full of pistols. A lot of them are rare. A lot of them are one of a kind. A lot of them are the collector pieces. And so they kind of broke character and were like, hey man, can I check this out? Hey man, how'd you get this? Hey man, like this is so cool. How much did you pay for it? Yeah, I have one just like it. We started kind of shooting the breeze. They were actually pretty cordial. Like they were fine. We made a few jokes about them not wanting to go back to their office because they had spent months compiling this investigation on me, and yet ended up being a bust. They were very embarrassed, to say the least. Okay, they could not believe it. In the first video, I made the joke about their eyes got so big. They seriously could not believe it. In conclusion, I'm not trying to support the ATF. In fact, you've probably heard me say this at least once this video. I do not like them. I do not think what they're doing is right in a lot of cases. I think they are infringing upon my Second Amendment rights. However, I chose to comply. In this specific case, it was easier to comply with them and prove them wrong than to sit there and ask for a lawyer and make this thing drag on for months. I have a child. I have jobs. I have a lot of employees. I don't want to get caught up in something like that. Okay? So by me saying, yes, come into my home without showing me the warrant that they were alluding that they had, yeah, everything turned out fine. I don't regret my decision, but I also am telling you guys, be careful. You do hear these horror stories where the ATF shows up to your house unannounced. They shoot your dogs. They seize your property. That just wasn't the case for me. I think a lot of that is based off of your state, the crimes they thought maybe you were committing, your actual record. I have a very clean record. I don't have even a speeding ticket on my record, and so if some of you guys have maybe some misdemeanors and you guys have guns or, whatever, maybe they are coming in guns blazing because they don't know if you're a law-abiding citizen, especially if your record alludes to the fact that you're not a law-abiding citizen. So take care, guys. Peace out.